Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi there, Red O'Loughlin here on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today we have an author who has a very unusual book, one that should be definitely read by a lot of people. Things happen to us in life. Sometimes we know about them in advance because we plan on getting married, we have kids, we get a degree, whatever it may happen to be, a new job. But sometimes things happen totally unexpectedly. Nobody can explain to you the reason why. And one thing you can do is write about it. And that's what our author today has done. Betsy Gall, please join me.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Betsy Gall is an author, a very recent author. And we're going to explore a little bit of her other background. But I think right now, let's start out in the authoring part of things and just go from there. So why don't you take a brief minute or two and tell us the background behind that's a very serious and thoughtful subject, and then we can get into you as a writer and other things. So why don't you go ahead and set the stage?
Well, hi there, and I'm so sorry if you hear this background noise. My name is Betsy Gall, and I was married to an oncologist, Matthew Taylor Gall, for 20 years. Matt was a loving and caring physician, a great husband, and a father to our three children. And unfortunately, after a job-related move from Minnesota to North Carolina, we had recently moved, and Matt fell into a deep depression, and it hit him very, very hard. And all I can say was I felt called to journal and write about my experience. Matthew ended up taking his own life on Thanksgiving Day of 2019. And I published my book about a year after he died. I felt called to share our story because unfortunately we lose about 400 physicians a year to suicide.
That's roughly one a day. Actually, it's more than one a day. I did not know that.
Yes.
5 years ago, it's still pretty recent. I offer you my condolences. That's a tough one to hold, especially with little kids.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I write about not only about physician suicide, but about my faith in my book, and that's really what carried me through. Suicide is it's an awful and tragic way to die, and when a physician dies by suicide, it's just so complex. I mean, I tell everybody that my late husband went to work every single day to save lives. So the fact that he took his own is just, it's still, you're right. I mean, 4.5 years later, it's still so perplexing. And by the grace of God, my kids and I are doing great. And you just have to lean into your faith and whatever that may be. But that's really what's carried us through for the last 4.5 years.
That was my next question. How are your kids doing?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, my oldest Grady is at Colorado State University. My son Gavin is a freshman at Tennessee, and then Sophie is a high school senior, and she'll be going to Ole Miss next year. Um, Going on the grief journey with my children has been challenging, but I've been very fortunate to be able to get them the proper care that they need. Everybody grieves so differently, and my children were no exception. So, we have ups and downs still. And as time goes on, time does heal. It does ease the pain, but it certainly has been a journey. But they are all doing really good right now. So thank you so much for asking.
Sometimes we have that situation where, so let's say cancer, and it's months and months or whatever, and the person's going to die and they're 60 or 70 or 80 years of age, and they've had a good life, and it's kind of preparing you for it, but it's still a situation that you grieve. But if it's a car wreck or some other incident that's immediate, you know, that's pretty tough. I lost a brother to a drowning accident. That immediacy is there, but when suicide occurs, that throws it into a entirely different ball game. Now, that you started a journal after this happened, was that as part of a therapy?
Well, no, it's really interesting what happened to me. When we got to North Carolina, we had only been here for about a week when my husband started saying things like, "This was a grave mistake." And I feel like this was career suicide, and I'm watching a small car crash. And I thought, okay, this is super weird. It's a job, and if it doesn't work out, there's plenty of jobs out there we can move. Well, um, I couldn't really talk to anybody about Matt's depression. One, I didn't know very many people, and two, I didn't know about depression, so I kind of didn't know what was happening to my husband because he was the life of the party. He loved life. I mean, like I said, he dedicated his whole life to saving lives. So I really would walk around my neighborhood and cry and like talk to God, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And there was just like this whisper that said, right. I had journaled on and off over the years, but nothing like I started doing when we had first moved here to North Carolina. That was just something I felt called to do. And I'm glad I did because I can turn back the pages of my journal and it brings me right back to that moment and that day. Um, After Matt died, I knew I had to write a book. I didn't know how to write a book, but I knew that those journals were going to be essential in getting the word out about physician suicide. And I have to say, my publicist the other day, said, something about you have to. Somebody wanted to talk to me about being a writer, and I kind of giggled because I don't consider myself a writer. I mean, I guess I am. I'm a published author, but I'm a real estate agent, and I had never written a book before. It was just something I just felt called to do. So that's how it all came together.
Do your kids journal at all?
My daughter does on and off. Actually, I shouldn't say that. My oldest son, Grady, and my daughter do on and off.
And so you have a journal, which was, I guess, your guide, your path to developing the book. But you got to start somewhere. So, and I don't know, did you read a few books ahead of time to get an idea how others were put together?
Well, it was funny. I mean, Matt's death was it was just so paradoxical and complex and confusing. Like, how he was a doctor, so how could he take his own life? So I remember we were in North Carolina and then we moved back to Minnesota for a short period of time. And so I just started Googling, about physician suicide. I had no idea that it was like a thing. And I did come across a book called Why Physicians Die by Suicide. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's a whole book dedicated to the subject. How can this be? So that's where I started my research. And the author of that book, Dr. Michael Myers, he's a brilliant psychiatrist out of New York. I reached out to him. We became friends. I've talked on a couple panels for him. But that was really my guide in starting to figure out how I was going to put the book together.
Did you put together any kind of outline as to how soon you wanted the book published? 6 months, a year, 2 years? Was there any guiding force as to, let's get this thing done?
Yeah, there was. I'm a kind of a type A person, like a go-getter. And so I said, I'm going to give myself a year to do this project. And I hated writing the book. Everybody's like, oh, it must have been so therapeutic and cathartic. And it was in a way, but it was also heartbreaking because I had to relive it every day when I would go over, a paragraph or and I'm very graphic in the book. I'm very honest and very open, and it's raw and it's vulnerable. And so it was hard. It was really hard emotionally to get through it. But I did give myself a time limit, and I dedicated time every single day to writing the book. Like, get it. The book I felt like was written with my journals, but I had to figure out, and I did get help. How do you put it into chapters? How long should the chapters be? What is this whole thing going to look like? So that that took help, and research, but I got it done, and I wanted to do it within a year, so I was happy that I did.
Okay. We think generally of editing. Once the book is done, we get the typos done and the grammar and the syntax. But sometimes when you're writing a book, you have a need of a developmental author, somebody that keeps you on track, helps you with the plot and the transitions. Did you use any kind of developmental editing at all?
Yes, I definitely did. It was interesting. I had met, people think I'm kind of crazy, but after a suicide, we all become investigators. So I had actually met with a psychic, and this psychic had said to me, "Are you writing a book?" And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to. I'm a real estate agent. And she said, "I see you writing a book, and I see you speaking on several panels." I thought, well, okay. I said, "I don't know how to write a book." And she said, "Well, Betsy, I'm going to talk to you about that after our discussion here." So after we were done talking about Matt, I had a lot of questions. Like, is he mad at me? I felt like I didn't do enough. Is he okay? All of these things that, we question after we lose somebody, just to any sort of death, but especially after suicide. She said to me, "Betsy, you're in Minneapolis. I know this woman, and she runs a writing group for women. You have to go. They meet every Friday at this pizza place in Eden Prairie." And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna just show up." So I did. And the leader of that group happened to be an editor, and she helped me because I had no idea how to put books into chapters, and what was relevant to me wasn't necessarily relevant to the reader. So she was a huge help, and it would have never gotten done without her. So I'm very grateful. And that's kind of how my whole life has been. I don't believe in coincidences. It was all kind of guided by God. And it put the right people in my life at the right time to help me complete this project.
Okay, so you're writing your book, you have a developmental author, editor that's helping you, you're seeing progress, things are getting done. Now, publishing. Tell me about the publishing process. What thoughts went through your mind as to which way to go and which way did you actually end up going?
Yeah. So again, like no idea how to write a book, no idea about becoming an author, what this would entail. So my editor actually helped and guided me through the process of self-publishing. So I did find a local publisher up in Minneapolis, and I interviewed a couple different ones. And then, you can also use Amazon. That felt a little overwhelming to me since I didn't know anything. And I found a great publisher. They wanted to read the first couple of pages of my book to make sure that it fit within, their parameters. And she read it and she said, "This is right up our alley, and we'll help you get it done." So that's how that came together. And I'm grateful to Anne, my publisher, because she really pushed me at the end to get it done. I was so nervous. I mean, like, after all, these are my personal journals, and I just thought, what the heck were you thinking, Betsy? I mean, why are you doing this? But I had people that were behind me that really believed in my book and helped me get it done.
Okay, so now you have the book written. You have somebody that's going to help you publish it. Were you doing any marketing on the book to kind of shorten that horizon a little bit?
That's funny. I didn't even think about that once I did it. I kind of felt like, okay, God, I wrote the book. Like, you told me to write the book, and now I'm leaving it up to you. So I have a little bit of a presence on Facebook and Instagram. I've never hired anybody to do any of that for me. And I thought, well, this is how I'm going to get the book out. And so that's really all I've done. I've been very fortunate. Matthew and I obviously ran with a group of doctors. That was our social circle. So we knew a lot of people. And I had a call from a very good friend who was the medical director of a huge orthopedic firm up in Minnesota, and Twin City Orthopedic. And he called me, I want to say, so it was about 3 years after Matt had passed. And he said, "Betsy, we just lost an anesthesiologist. He wasn't in our group, but he was a really good friend of mine. We just lost an anesthesiologist to suicide." He said, "I'm going to buy a book for every one of our physicians in our practice." And so they did. They bought 220 copies, and from there, it's really just been word of mouth, and it's kind of been fun to watch it just go, out into the universe. But other than recently hiring a publicist, which is how I, came to be here on your show, I had not done any marketing, hadn't really even thought about it. I wish I had, but it's all seems to work out. So.
Well, I believe a lot of things in our life happen for a reason, and many times we'll never ever know the reason. Just that's the way God intends things to be, I guess. Just it is. But sometimes you get aligned, as you say, coincidences, whatever, and you end up with this publisher, this editor, this publicist, whatever it may happen to be. Things kind of just pop in. Have you noticed? I know that you're a speaker. How did your role as an author, now a speaker, how did that transition happen? That's obviously part of the marketing process.
Yeah, actually. So Dr. Myers, who I talked about previously, who wrote the book, Why Physicians Die by Suicide, and he wrote his book a couple years ago, and that's really what he focuses on. It's a passion of his. He, his medical school roommate died by suicide back in the 70s, and he came back from spring break, and his roommate had died by suicide, and nobody talked about it. So he has been a fierce advocate, and again, just freak, I don't like to use the word coincidence, because I do think everything is guided by God. He was had a panel at the American Psychiatry Convention down in New Orleans. This was in 2022, and somebody canceled on him at the last minute. And so he called me and he said, "Would you step in for this person?" And I said, "Absolutely." So from there, it's just kind of taken off. I speak. I've spoken to several large hospital systems, and I speak last Friday was at the South Carolina Medical Alliance Association, speaking to them about them, just to get the word out, and so people can understand how much stress our doctors are under and signs to look for if they are depressed. Like I said, I do this really just to spread awareness, and so that no family ever has to go through what ours has.
So as part of your speaking, you're giving the clues, the little hints that this might be a problem. And if you have this and this, it probably is more than just a little coincidence. Things are really happening. So tell us a little bit about some of the telltale signs that suicide might become an issue, or how do you really know that depression in your loved one or whatever? So could you take a few minutes and just kind of go down the two or three things that you talk about when you're out there?
Sure. Well, there's a buzzword in the medical community, and it's called burnout. And lots of people talk about burnout. Now, burnout is not a medical diagnosis. It's what happens to you when you're exhausted from work and just plain burned out. Depression is different. Depression is a medical term that we use to describe people that are highly depressed. And signs to look for are change in appetite, change in sleep patterns, um, ruminating. Matthew was always ruminating about his old job and how he made a mistake and leaving, and it was like he could not get over it, um, and that was so strange. He literally was a such an active person. He loved to grill. He loved to mountain bike. We like to go out to dinner. We're big skiers. Matt would come home from work and lay on the couch. I mean, that was not anything I had ever experienced before with him. So that was a really quick sign that things were not going well. I could not get him to seek help. And our physicians, unfortunately, are trained to not show any weakness. And Matt kept saying, I can't get help because I could lose my medical license, which was a real fear of his. And we are now teamed up with the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation, and they are out there trying to change laws so that boards cannot ask these invasive questions um, about your mental health on, your licensing agreements, because it's a real stress for doctors when their livelihood could be threatened because they need to reach out to get help. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. So you just need to watch really closely. Like I said, I had never been around a depressed person before. So when depression hit Matt and it hit him hard and hit him fast, I was like, what is happening? Um, so those are the signs that I saw in my husband. And those are signs for other people to, not only in their physician spouse, but, any spouse or any loved one. Those are signs to watch for.
Hey, Betsy, you talked about you moved to North Carolina. Your husband was second guessing that decision. Uh, and I'm guessing prior to that in Minnesota, everything was hunky dory, or at least it seemed to be. But how much time was there involved from this initial uh, turnaround in his life before he actually took his life? Was it fairly quick, or was it a year, or what?
3 months.
Oh,
It was so quick. Yeah, it was so quick. And it was so, that's why it was like, we had just moved to this new town and I have these teenagers I'm trying to get acclimated. And then my husband gets hit with depression. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? It was so fast. And, like I said at the beginning of this interview, about a week in, he started saying very odd things. Like, I feel like I'm watching a slow car crash. And I'm like, dude, it's a job. Like, if you don't like it, let's quit. And we had kept our lake home up in Minnesota. Let's quit and go to another, job. And he felt like a fool. He felt trapped. And he literally took his life on November 28th of 2019, which was about 3 months after we had just moved there. So it was fast. It can happen really, really fast.
I mean, that's almost like coming home and finding out somebody died in a car wreck because they were coming home from work. I mean, boom. Uh, that's pretty tragic. I'm trying to adapt to that right now, and I just heard it. I can
Yeah.
imagine the feeling part of it. So you came out with the title of your book, "The Illusion of a Perfect Profession." Tell us a little bit about that. Uh, we we lost a little bit here. I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll figure it out. Betsy, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you. I thought it would just go away. I'm not sure if you touched something on your phone and it put the thing into mute or whatever. Regardless, about the last minute and a half or so, I thought it would come right back. But would you double check your phone? But I'm still not hearing you. If we need to reconnect, we can do that. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not hearing any background noise, nothing. Why don't we do this? Why don't you go ahead and hang up and dial back in? Is that possible? And we still have a fair amount of the show to do. So if you can do that, go ahead, hang up, dial back in, and we'll rejoin the show here in just a moment. While we're doing that, one of the things that came to mind during the conversation with Betsy is that she started writing her book. She had some help at the beginning. She had a support group. She had people there at various times. But when you're thinking about writing a book and you have a social media account, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, think seriously about telling the world that you have a book you're writing, because that marketing program really should start at the same time that you actually start writing your book. It may take you a year to get there, but that's a year of not necessarily free marketing, because obviously you have your time and energy involved, but it's a year's worth of marketing that could have been going along at the same time as your actual writing is going on. So as such, now you have a little bit of an advantage. As you have a paragraph or two, you want to share that with the audience, keep a little bit of interest out there. You have 2 or 3 or 4 different covers, put those out for an A or B, B or C, C or D. From an author perspective, a lot of times we have a favorite title or a favorite cover, but our perspective is not the same perspective as the buyer of the book. And so I know one of the last books I put out, I went ahead and put 5 different covers out. The one I liked the least was one everyone loved. The one I loved, hardly anybody liked. So anyway, I think right now what we're going to do while we're waiting for Betsy to come back in is go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back here in just a minute or two.
Women of the Caribbean and around the world, are you tired of the status quo? Tired of barely making ends meet? Tired of giving maximum effort for minimum results? Are you in need of change, a fresh start, a new outlook, a new perspective? It's time to break through. Join us along with women from around the world at the Empower Her Escape, a 5-day all-inclusive royal cruise to the Bahamas and Florida. Connect with world leaders and influencers and begin afresh your journey to more. Hear dynamic speakers with sessions on women in leadership, the importance of mentorship, how to start a business from the ground up, financial literacy, an integrated approach to wellness and wholeness, and so much more. Guest speakers include First Lady Anne-Marie Davis of the Bahamas, Her Royal Highness Katerina of Yugoslavia Lady de Silva, Her Royal Highness Queen Sekothali Mepena of South Africa, and Coach Max, Global Multi-Six-Figure Wealth Coach. Cruise packages include 2 nights at an all-exclusive resort, gratuities, taxes, and port fees, red carpet welcome and extravaganza, course materials, and a souvenir gift bag, flight not included. The Empower Her Escape Cruise takes place on May 15th through the 19th, 2024, departing from the port of Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, Florida. Hosts for this life-changing event are Coach Cherish Hollingsworth of Florida and Coach Mercy Gilbert of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.empowerherroyalescape.com or call us at 954-203-6608 or email us at cherishresiliencecoach@gmail.com. Connect, collaborate, celebrate at the Empower Her Escape Cruise.
Hi, welcome back to the Corner Bookstore with Betsy Gall on USA Global TV and Radio Network. And I'm sure Dr. Jacqueline got you all fixed back up with video and audio. It's working. And I see you're smiling, so I'm guessing that's a true statement.
I am so sorry. Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline, for saving the day. I feel awful. I don't know what happened, but I am not techie.
Okay, no problem. We had just, I think, broached the subject of how you got the title of your book. And that's kind of where I'd like to have you, the illusion of a perfect profession. You talked for about a minute that we weren't able to hear you. So could you go back and refresh us a little bit?
Sure. So sorry about that. So I came up with the title of the book because I talk about in the book, at the beginning of the book, my idea of a perfect life. And I thought that I was going to have one. I was married to an oncologist. We had a great life. We had healthy children and we had been blessed. But being married to a physician is not easy. I found out over the course of the 20 years I was married to him, I had to do a lot of things by myself. I felt like a single parent a lot of time because Matt was working a lot and he was on call. So the illusion of the perfect profession is kind of, it's my take on what it is, because I thought that being married to a doctor was going to be life on easy street. And while Matthew loved his job and he loved his patients, the job itself is extremely difficult and only getting harder to navigate with everything that's happening right now within our healthcare system. I think people really need to kind of wake up and see what's going on, because these men and women do not have easy lives. So that's my take on it. I felt like I felt like from the outside looking in, people would think that we had a perfect life. And it was, while very charming and lovely and blessed in many ways, it was also really difficult and challenging.
You came up with the title of the book, but sometimes when people Google information, the title may be a great title, but sometimes we need the subtitle in order to give us the keywords defining exactly what we're looking for. So in your subtitle, it's One Wife's Story About Love, Physician Suicide, and Finding Comfort and Purpose in the Aftermath. I think that is such a wonderful subtitle because it catches the keywords, it catches the event and aftermath. That to me is a remarkable subtitle. I really and truly want to commend you for that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so you're now in the process of marketing your book through a publicist, through speaking, and people want to know more about what's going on with Betsy Gall, the author. And I don't think we're going to have time today to go into the real estate portion of it, but let's go ahead and just conclude today, and we have about 5 minutes left. Why don't we look at what are you doing to help, as you said earlier, awareness is a major key. We don't know that 400 people, physicians, a year are committing suicide. How are you getting this word out besides interviews like you're doing today and speaking? What other opportunities are you looking for that maybe this will bring to their attention? And what's your next 2 or 3 events that are scheduled that people can catch you?
Well, I'm actually going to be speaking here in North Carolina at 2 different events, one in Greensboro and then one up in Asheville in September. So people can reach out to me, via email or follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm just a real person. I don't have anybody helping me with my social marketing, but I do it because I want to offer people hope that there is life after such a tragedy. I just like to share because I feel so blessed. It is going through the grief process is not for sissies. It is hard. It is hard work. And if you can find the right people and just get up every day, put the coffee on, make your bed, put on your makeup, and just keep going through the motions, you will eventually get to the other side. I always tell people I will never move on from Matt Gall. He was too great of a person, too much of a character. He loved life. But I do have to move forward with my life. And I have found love again. Like I said, my children are thriving. My real estate business is booming. I'm really fortunate that I get to do all of these things that I love. And talking about my book and being an author and how it came to be is really fun for me, because if I did it, I'm telling you, anybody can do it.
Are you taking advantage of any of the national days? I think what September something is. My birthday is right around the same day as National Suicide Day, so it's one of those things that kind of. But do you take advantage of the national holidays to market your book?
Definitely. And I do quite a few speaking engagements in September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. And anytime I am asked if I am able, I love to help spread the word. Like I said, my goal in sharing is so that another family doesn't have to go through what we have. So um, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and see what I'm up to and where I'm at. I might write another book. That psychic told me that I was going to. I've been thinking about that. But anything is possible if you believe and you put in the work. Um, and I just think to myself that God is good all the time. And even though we have difficult life experiences, we all do. Eventually, we're all going to know somebody that passes away. If you have a relationship with God, you're just going to be so much better off. So that's what I've found to be true in my life, at least.
I meant to ask you earlier, and I'm probably confusion regardless. You had a doctor that ordered a couple hundred books for his staff. Have you heard back from any of them whatsoever with regard to your book and what they did as a free gift?
Yeah, you know what, I have, and that's been really, really fun for me. The practice was up in Minnesota, and so Matthew knew a lot of the physicians, and that's another reason why I wrote the book, because nobody could believe that Matt Gall died by suicide. So I had to tell the story because I just felt it needed to get out there.
No. It looks like we have the video still, but we don't have any more audio. So I don't know what's going on with the connection. But let me go ahead and wrap it up because we're down to the last minute or so of the show. Betsy, again, we've lost the audio, and I guess you can't hear me this time. So, Dr. Jackman, when you bring up her byline at the bottom so that I can go ahead and give that to everybody. Okay. Okay. The illusion of the perfect profession. Betsy Gall 1. That's Betsy, Betsy Gall, Gall, and the number 1, numeral 1 at gmail.com. So Betsy Gall 1 at gmail.com. The illusion of the perfect profession. Paperback. Please give her an email. She's on Instagram at Betsy Gall, Betsy Gall 1. So please contact her, buy her book, and spread the word. I did not realize there's over 400 physician suicides a year. That totally astounded me. So it's always good when you learn new information. Share that information with others. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the Corner Bookstore, but very, very shortly, and it looks like 20 minutes or so, the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network will commence. I'll be the host for that one. And Sri Ram Murthy is my guest today. And I'm really looking forward to this one. It's amazing. I had a wonderful conversation with him. So please stand by for that. And then the second one, right after that show at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, my Talking Heads program on the USA Global TV and Radio Network and others will commence. And we're going to talk a little bit more on the deeper dive into nutrition, specifically in the area of vitamins. So we do a little bit more on that today. So with that, I'm going to catch you all later on and see you hopefully again in a few minutes. Take care. Bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Simon MacDonald. I live in the West Highlands of Scotland, a very beautiful part of the world. Seems a long way from the USA Global TV station. But remember, USA Global TV is worldwide. It's a fantastic platform. And every Wednesday, I come along here as part of the show of the United Kingdom News and Culture. And it's just like a family reunion each time. It's one of these amazing stations that has such a beautiful, friendly, and intelligent atmosphere as well. And we reach out to an audience in the most unimaginable places. And I came here, I don't know, must be over a year ago now. I was introduced by Dr. Philip Chan, and I met Ian Plum-Turner and Helena Chard, who are co-presenters on the show. And then Diane Floyd-Bem came along as well. And I mean, the five of us, Dr. Jacqueline, of course, who is our host and our mentor, has just made this show work so well. Tremendous people, lovely time we have, and we impart a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Nothing's rehearsed. It's all done off the cuff, and it all just gels. And we get great feedback from people coming back and saying how they're enjoying the show. It's lovely to hear. It's lovely to get that interaction from outside as well. And we're all listeners, and some of us are elevated listeners as well. So we enjoy every second of it, and we hope you do too.
This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of the world's first tooth fairy ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZaneCarruth.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.